A Florida Circuit Court judge who was acting as a private citizen successfully fought against the city's inspection and licensing fees. I'm Tony, and this is Real Estate Investing and Landlord News. All right, so I have an interesting article for you today, and it's coming out of the state of Florida. So if I remember correctly, about a year ago, Florida passed a law saying that small municipalities within the state were unable to pass their own rental regulations, and that all the cities and towns and jurisdictions within the state had to fall under state law. And that is what this story is really about. So there's a circuit court judge, and he was acting as a private citizen in order to fight against the rental licensing and inspection fee that this small town in Florida was charging. And he won. Okay, he won. They got the whole thing thrown out. It was going against what the state law says. And I'm glad to see that there are judges out there who are, taking the initiative, going out there, fighting cases, doing things that are pro-landlord, okay? I don't see enough of that. There are some really good judges out there, and, I'll give you credit where it's due. There are some bad judges out there too, but in this case, this guy's a good one, okay? So, it's an interesting case. I think the Florida state law that, basically it reined in the larger, more left-leaning cities that were trying to put in place rent control provisions and strong eviction protections. And I'm glad that they did that. A lot of these more conservative states, they will sometimes have a city or two, be it a college town or a big major city, where they try to pass the same left-leaning progressive laws that they have in places like California. And I hate seeing that. It's like, hey, you go to Texas, you don't want to deal with the same garbage they deal with in California, but that's what these local municipalities were trying to do. So before I get into the article, go ahead, hit the like, subscribe button, maybe leave a comment down below, and let me know what you think. So just out of curiosity, for the landlords out there, is your place where you invest, is it in we'll just say a more left-leaning place, okay? Do they tend to follow the trends of the East and West Coast more than they do of the rest of the state? I know there are some landlords here who invest in major cities. Like I own my properties here in the city of Omaha, Nebraska, and obviously we are much more left-leaning than I would like, okay? But checks and balances. Right now there still is a lot of conservatives in the outer outskirts in the suburbs where I live, and we kind of keep the progressive nonsense in check, okay? Anyway, I'm just curious where you guys invest and what you guys are doing. So anyway, let me get into this article. This article is coming from newsjournalonline.com, and it says, Judge fights Ponce Inlet Town Hall and wins. Says it should refund $500 fee to landlords. Circuit Judge Dennis Craig, acting as a private citizen, said state law stripped Ponce Inlet and other cities of the ability to regulate rentals, including charging permit fees. And let's get into the details. Circuit Judge Dennis Craig is undefeated against city regulators seeking to impose fines against him, this time notching his latest victory against the Ponce Inlet Code Enforcement Board. Craig, who defeated red light camera citations in Palm Coast several years back, appeared before the Ponce Inlet Code Enforcement Board last week as a private citizen and landlord. He argued that a law passed last year took away municipalities' power to charge landlords fees, like the $500 fee Ponce Inlet charges for a rental permit and inspection. Yeah, and that's the law that I was talking about before, and I remember it because I believe it was Orlando, or the county where Orlando is located, was trying to pass rent control, and Ron DeSantis stepped in there and like, hey, we need to, nip this thing in the bud, because we don't want rent control in Florida. We don't want the same issues that they have going on in San Francisco and New York, okay? They've got their problems. People come to Florida because we have an open market, and even in the most expensive part of Florida, South Florida, down there in Miami, right? It is still cheaper than in the places with rent control like New York and San Francisco. So, you explain it, okay? Simply put, rent control is a disaster. And I completely understand why the state felt like they had to pass this sort of law. At this point, I think the town to the extent that it's null and void, ought to refund everybody the $500. Ponce Inlet has 436 known rental properties, which are charged $400 for the rental permit and another $100 for an annual housing inspection. That adds up to $218,000 a year, according to figures provided by Ponce Inlet. That's a lot of money. And from what I have noticed, right, it's almost like it's a jobs fund for an inspector, okay? You're basically creating bureaucracy with this sort of thing, because the grand majority of landlords are already doing everything right. They don't need an inspection. They don't need a license to run their business. They can run it just fine without all that. They're like, oh, well, there was this one case 20 years ago where this guy didn't do everything right. Well, go after that guy. Why are you coming after me? That's what I keep asking, okay? Why are you going after the 99% of landlords who are doing everything right instead of just going after that one bad person? Because that's what bureaucracy does. Bureaucracy is inefficient. They have no way of actually solving the problem. Instead, they throw stupid laws like this out there where they say, hey, everybody's got to get a license, everybody's got to get inspected. That will make sure that our housing stock is in good shape. No, it won't. The only thing it'll do is it'll cost the good landlords a bunch of money, and then the bad landlord's still going to do exactly what they did before, and now they're going to get fined because they don't have a license. Ooh, yeah, ooh-wee. That was a great plan, great solution to the problem. Okay, so you solve nothing with a licensure program. Okay. Drew Smith, an attorney for Ponce Inlet at the Code Enforcement Board, told board members even before the judge spoke that the town was dropping its case against Craig. The Smith said he would ask for the town for the okay to seek a legal opinion on the matter. The News Journal sent an email to Ponce Inlet Mayor Lois A. Paritsky asking to speak to her about the issue. Paritsky wrote in an email response that the town attorney will request at the August 22nd Town Council meeting permission to request an Attorney General opinion on whether the state law cited by Craig preempts the ordinance. And I'd be willing to bet that he's got you dead to rights, okay? This guy, he's obviously a very good attorney, good lawyer, good judge, knows the law up and down, knows that your local law it's not congruent with state law, and therefore it is invalid. And I wouldn't doubt that he might even be able to squeeze a refund of those fees back out of you, okay? It would kind of suck. This doesn't sound like it's a huge town. This place isn't a Miami or a Jacksonville. I've never even heard of a Ponce Inlet, So this is a smaller place. They don't have a lot of money, and it kind of sucks, but you know what? When that law passed, you should have thought about this sort of thing, okay? Because the legal eagles, this judge here, he's all over the case. The town attorney's recommendation at this time is against making public statements regarding positions on the subject matter that will come before the town council in August. It is appropriate to preserve the ability of council as a body to have full and open conversation when the matter comes before it in August, Paritsky wrote. Ponce Inlet Vice Mayor Gary Smith wrote that the issue you want to discuss is now being reviewed by our attorneys. Until I see a legal opinion, it would not be appropriate for me to discuss the issue. So, anyway, they're not caving just yet, but it looks like, this law is going to fall down. So we'll see if they're able to get the $500 refund out of it, but at least the $500 fee going forward hopefully will be eliminated for landlords.